Good morning. I'd like to call the February Committee of Adjustment meeting to order. Moved by Member Grogan Green, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated February the 9th, 2026 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Moved by Member Bridgman, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment minutes dated January 12th, 2026 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few statements, then I will explain the hearing procedures. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Alan Edwards, Barb Bridgman, Lisa Grogan Green, and Sean Stokes. I can confirm we have quorum and that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this February 9th agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions received by 8:15 a.m. today have been made available to committee members and the public. These submissions can be viewed under Section 10 of the agenda. When able, planning staff will do their best to circulate submissions that were received after 8:15 a.m. These submissions will also form part of the public record and will be available for the public on the township's government portal. The planner will identify the source of each submission and whether it is in support or opposition to the application. Should committee members wish to view any submissions during the meeting, they may request that it be projected on the council chamber screen to view. The committee will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. If you are here to speak on an application electronically, please wait until after the planner presents the relevant application to raise your hand in Zoom. If you are here to speak on an application in person, when asked, please raise your hand, and when you are recognized by the chair, please approach the podium, turn on the microphone, and remain at the podium while you state your comments for recording purposes. The committee will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. The committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions, have a debate on the application, and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions for consent and minor variances, along with the reasons for minor variance decisions, are both required under the Planning Act, and motions are pre-populated with standard wording. However, the committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. Motions have also been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. Building permits are not available until after the appeal period and if no appeals are received. Due to the uncertainty of Canada Post, we ask all those who would like a copy of the notice of decision to email planning@muskokalakes.ca. Lastly, please take down the pink signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ward. In the first application is B 5325 ML and A 0426, and that's Ms. DeMello.
Thank you, Chair Bosworth. The first application to be heard, or sorry, Chair Edwards. The first application to be heard is concurrent consent application B 5325 ML and minor variance application A-0426 in the name of Bissell. The subject lands are known municipally as 1068 Brackenrig Center Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 35 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the proposed applications is to create one new lot with frontage on Falkenberg Road. A minor variance application has been submitted concurrently from section 6.1.3 of the zoning bylaw as amended, being the minimum lot frontage requirement of 325 feet in the rural residential zone and the minimum lot frontage requirement of 600 feet in the rural area 3 zone. The retained lot proposes a lot frontage of 307.5 feet, and the severed lot proposes a lot frontage of 403.5 feet. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 21 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, Matt Veach, the township's development and transportation engineering coordinator, Paul Lyden, the township fire prevention officer, Matt Irving, the township's septic inspector, and Sarah Campbell, planner for the district of Muskoka. These comments were all circulated to committee prior to today's meeting and no concerns were raised. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration, and staff have recommended that the applications be approved, subject to the recommended conditions of consent, including a condition that the minor variances be approved to recognize the lot frontages of the severed and retained lots. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mello. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak?
Present, and no, I do not wish to speak.
There's no one else in support? No one in opposition? Questions from the members? Okay. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 5325 ML Bissell, providing the following condition is fulfilled. 1, that a registered certificate of consent under section 5342 of the Planning Act, along with a transfer in preparation, be submitted to the solicitor and shall be given to the secretary treasurer within 2 years from the date of notice of the decision was given. 2, that one hard copy and a light digital copy of a satisfactory registered reference plan on the severed lands prepared by a Ontario land surveyor be submitted to the secretary treasurer, which corresponds with the application as submitted. A draft copy of a reference plan shall be provided to the secretary treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration of title. 3, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lot and the severed lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified with an existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. 4, that the availability of an entrance permit be confirmed by the township's operational service department for the severed lot. 5, the road widening across the portions of the severed lot fronting onto Falkenberg Road be dedicated to the township to the satisfaction of the township's operations service department. And 6, the cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created lot or the entire lands, whichever is left. And 7, that a minor variance be approved to recognize the lot frontage of the severed and retained lots. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 0426 Bristol to create one new lot fronting onto Falkenberg Road is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. One, to permit a lot frontage of 307.5 feet for the retained lot. To permit a lot frontage of 403.5 feet for the separate lot. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Okay, I can just barely make a Sean's hand there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Sean, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I approve it. My hand's up.
Okay. Yeah, okay, just hold it really high because the sun's coming in and it's blocking the screen pretty much. That's it. Thank you. And the next one is B 5125 ml. That's Ms. DeMello.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is consent application B 5125 ML in the name of Kenny Frackowiack in Monaghan. The subject lands are known municipally as 1247 Innisfree Road, unit number 23. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 50 of the agenda package. The purpose of the application is to sever a portion of property known as the severed lot, which currently contains a sitting area along the shoreline, and add it to an abutting property to the west, known as the benefiting lot, in the same ownership. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 24 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments received from Legislative Services, Emergency Services, Operational Services, the Development Services Division, the Township Septic Inspector, and the District Municipality of Muskoka indicate no concerns. Comments received for this application were circulated to committee prior to the hearing. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend that the application be approved, subject to the standard conditions of consent. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeMello. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Yes, go ahead, state your name and address and postal code, please.
Thank you. Good chilly morning, everybody. My name is Debbie Vandenacker. I am the agent for the applicant, 104 Kimberly Avenue in Bracebridge, P1L1Z8. And I don't have any additional comments to the very fulsome report that was provided, but we are here to answer any questions if you do have them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Questions from the members? Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 5125 ML Kennedy, Frackowiack, and Monaghan, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 8. That's what I thought. 1, the certificate of consent under section 5342 of the Planning Act, along with any transfer in preparation, be submitted to the solicitor and shall be given to the Secretary Treasurer within 2 years of the date of notice of decision is given. 2, that 1 hard copy and a digital copy of the registered reference plan of the severed lands prepared by an Ontario land surveyor be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, which corresponds with the application as submitted. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration of on title. 3, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the residential lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal and that any problems identified within the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. 4, that subsection 3 of section 50 of the Planning Act applies to any subsequent conveyance. 5, that a legal undertaking is submitted by the acting solicitor, which confirms that the severed lot will merge in title with the benefiting lot upon registration of the transfer/deeds, which may include the cancellation of a consent. Oh, sorry. That was 3. The confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal and that any problems identified within this existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the next application is B 5859 25 ml Juddhaven Holdings Limited, and that is Caitlin Walker.
Thank you very much, Chair Edwards, and good morning, everyone. The next applications to be heard are consent applications B/58/59/25 ml in the name of Juddhaven Holdings Limited. The subject lands are known municipally as 1589 Juddhaven Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 69 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the proposed applications is to create one new lot with frontage on Lake Rosso and grant a right-of-way. Please note that a recent consent application, which in part created the subject lot, has been conditionally approved. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 29 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Veach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, Paul Lydon, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, Matt Irving, the Township Septic Inspector, and Sarah Campbell, Planner for the District of Muskoka. These comments were all circulated to committee prior to today's meeting, and no concerns were raised. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff have recommended the applications be approved subject to the recommended conditions of consent, which includes that the previous consent on the subject property be finalized prior to this one. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to assist with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here? Good morning, Mr. Allen.
Good morning, Chair Edwards. Good morning, committee. My name is Ryan Allen, 16 McNabb Street, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L1R4. I'm representing the Juddhaven Holdings Corporation. It's the owner of this property, which is also owned by Stephen Smith and Diane Blake. Thanks, Ms. Walker, for your detailed report. I've also provided a planning justification report that's attached to the agenda. The severed lot has more than 600 feet of frontage and more than 2 acres in lot area. The retained lot has more than 300 feet of frontage and 4 acres of lot area. Both lot areas and frontages exceed the minimum requirements of the WR1 zone. We will finalize the previous severance shortly. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? No? Excuse me. Are there any questions from the members? No? Excuse me. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 582925 ML. Okay. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 585925 ML Juddhaven Holdings Limited, providing the following conditions are fulfilled. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 585925 ML Juddhaven Holdings Limited, providing the following conditions are fulfilled. One, to the register, one, that certificates of consent under section 5324 of the Planning Act with a transfer in preparation be prepared by the solicitor and shall be given to the Secretary Treasurer within 2 years from the date of notice of decision it was given. 2, that one hard copy and a digital copy of a satisfied registered reference plan of the several lands and the right-of-way prepared by Ontario Land Survey be submitted to Secretary Treasurer, which corresponds with the application is submitted. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration on title. 3, the confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the severed and retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal and that any problems identified in the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. And 4, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created lot, severed lot, or the entire lands, whichever is less. And 5, that consent be granted for B 0607080925 ML be finalized prior to consent of application B 585925 ML. And 6, that a satisfactory consent agreement under section 5126 of the Planning Act be entered into with the township and registered on title of the lands which provisions and satisfaction of the township whereby the owner agrees to implement the recommendations of the scoped environmental impact study prepared by Riverstone Environmental Solutions, Inc., dated June 2026. Any questions? Oh, sorry, June 2025. Okay, sorry. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Okay, that's carried.
Thank you.
The next application is A 6625, and that's Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-66/25 in the name of Carapella. The subject lands are known municipally as 1003 Wyanne Drive, and I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 172 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to construct a new single-story boathouse with a rooftop sundeck. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was also included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 26 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, Matt Veach, the township's development and transportation engineer and coordinator, Paul Lyden, the township's fire prevention officer, Chriselle Story, the township's land and agreements coordinator, all stating no objection. 2 letters of support were submitted by the neighboring property owners with the application. Brian and Pat Tate, neighboring property owners to the north, and Wasantha and Susan Aberwarden are all comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. I have no other comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Yes, go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Chair Edwards, committee members and staff. My name is Peter Hungerford. I'm a registered principal planner with MP Planning and Associates, and our firm address is 44 King William Street, Unit A in Huntsville, P1H 1G3. And we're appearing this morning on behalf of our clients, Adam and Laura Carapella, whose property is located on Acton Island at 103 Wyanne Drive. As planning staff have outlined in their report, the purpose of the application is to seek approval for a minor variance to permit the addition of a single slip boathouse on an existing steel dock. The nature of the requested variances include recognition of a minor increase in lot coverage from 10 to 10.2%, and a reduction in the required side yard setback from 45 feet to 25 feet. The application is as a consequence of our client's efforts to maintain the existing established vegetated shoreline buffer and to position the dock and the proposed boathouse so as to avoid any alteration to this shoreline vegetated area. The planning merits associated with the application are outlined, in the municipality staff report and in our own planning report. And as was noted by Ms. Walker, both of the adjacent property owners have indicated their support. The requested variances have been judged to satisfy the four tests applying to a minor variance. And so in conclusion, and on behalf of our clients, we are requesting that the committee grant approval of the requested variances as recommended in each of the reports. And in closing, I would thank the committee members and staff and would answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? Okay, questions from the members? Nope. Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 6625 Carapella to construct a new single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 4,177 square feet or 10.2% of the entire lot. 2, to permit a lot coverage of 2,724 square feet or 10.2% within 200 feet of the high water mark. And 3, to permit a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck to be 25 feet at the closest point to the southerly side lot line projection. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and the next application is A8125, and that's Ms. Mello.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-8125 in the name of Byrne. The subject lands are known municipally as 1082 Halls Road, Unit Number 5. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 160 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to construct a dock addition to an existing dock, construct an addition to an existing 2-story boathouse, recognize 3 as-built sport courts, including a tennis court, volleyball court, and shuffleboard court, and recognize an as-built storage building. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 18 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments from the Development Services Division indicate no objection and state that a building permit is required for the storage building should committee approve the application. Comments from Operational Services, Emergency Services, and Legislative Services indicate no objection. Comments received for this application were circulated to committee members prior to the meeting. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeMello. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this? Yes, go ahead.
Hi there. Good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Charlebois. I am with Madison Taylor Design and representing our clients, Mike and Karen Byrne. My address is 90 Redmond Crescent, Springwater, L9X1Z8. We've reviewed the staff report and are in a recommendation and are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to support of this application?
Yeah, there is someone with their hand up. I can bring them in.
Okay, bring them in, please.
Good morning. Excuse me. My name is Tom Wesson. I am at 1082 Halls Road, Unit 9, Concurrent POB 1JL. And we just have a question, really. We're one of the properties that is impacted by the buildings that are already not in compliance, I guess, with bylaws. The previous owner built a giant sports structure, tennis court, shuffleboard court, volleyball court, fire pit, all kinds of stuff. And the storage structure is too close to our property line. I guess our attitude sort of is what's done is done, but we just want to make sure that if this variance gets approved, it doesn't give the new owner any right to do anything else that isn't in compliance in terms of the setbacks.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. Can we get your full address and postal code, please, sir?
Yep, 1082 Halls Road, Unit 9, POB 1JL.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Other questions from the members? Richmond.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I would just hoping somebody else could understand this gentleman because I'm not quite sure what he said to us.
So basically my question is, if this
you're not clear.
No, I kind of noticed that, but I thought it was my hearing.
okay,
No. I think what I heard was that in terms of the sports courts, was there an issue? That's my problem. I didn't really understand what he was saying.
Does it sound better now?
Yes, Mr. Mello.
Through the chair, I think I did hear what the member was asking. I think he was asking whether or not any future development on the subject property would need to be in compliance with the zoning bylaw, and it would need to be compliant with the zoning bylaw. The minor variances that are in front of you today are to prevent a reduced rear yard setback for an existing storage building, which abuts your property. And that storage building wouldn't be permitted to move any closer to your property.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions or comments? Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 8125 Byrne to construct a dock addition to an existing dock, construct an addition to an existing two-story boathouse, recognize 3 as-built sports courts, tennis court, volleyball court, and shuffleboard court, and will recognize an as-built storage building is hereby approved with the following variants being granted. 1, to permit a cumulative dock width to be 118.5 feet or 41%. 2, to permit a lot coverage of 6,461 square feet or 10.2% within 200 feet of the high water mark. 3, to permit a westerly interior side lot line setback for a shuffleboard court to be 7.5 feet. 4, to permit a westerly interior side yard setback for a tennis court to be 8.5 feet. 5, to permit a westerly interior side lot setback for a volleyball court to be 4.5 feet. And 6, to permit a year-round setback for a storage building to be 10.5 feet. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. And 6, to permit a rear yard setback for a storage building to be 10.5 feet. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. The next application is A8725, and that's Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A8725 in the name of Almeida. The subject lands are known municipally as 1158 Greenwood Point Road, unit number 15. The purpose and effect of the proposed application is to recognize an as-built dwelling addition to an existing single-story dwelling, which exceeds the maximum permitted lot coverage over the entire lot and within 200 feet of the high water mark. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 282 of the agenda package. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 15 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were provided by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating that the addition has been built without the issuance of a building permit, and if approved, a building permit is required to be issued prior to resuming work. Sewage system capacity will be evaluated and confirmed prior to issuance of a building permit. Comments were also received from Matt Veach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, Paul Lyden, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, and Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, all stating no objection to the application. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. As the applicant or applicant's agent here wishes to speak on this?
Good morning, Chair Edwards, committee, and staff. Terry Ledger, 167 Medora Street, Port Carling, P0B1J0, agent for the applicant. So this is just a small addition, just under 70 square feet to the back of the cottage to square off the building. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ledger. Is there anyone in support? Anyone in opposition? No? Questions from the members? Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that minor variance application A8725 Almeida to recognize an as-built dwelling addition to an existing single-story dwelling is hereby approved with the following variants being granted. 1, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 4,226 square feet or 10.5% over the entire lot, and 2, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 4,226 feet or 10.6% within 200 feet of the high water mark. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
Next application is A 8825 Richards, and as Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 8825 in the name of Richards. The subject lands are known municipally as 1086 Penwood Road, Unit 44. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 302 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to reconstruct a 2-story boathouse, construct a sun deck addition, and construct a sports court. The proposed 2-story boathouse will reconfigure an existing oversized sleeping cabin at a reduced size. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was also included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Beach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, Paul Lydon, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, and Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, all stating no objection. All comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to the recommended conditions. I have no other comments, but I'm happy to assist with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And Mr. Allen again, yes.
Yes, good morning, Chair Edwards, once again. My name is Ryan Allen, Allen Planning Consulting, 16 McNabb Street, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L1R4. I'm the agent representing Celine and Mark Richards with their variance application. Thanks, Ms. Walker, for the explanation. I do have a brief presentation with some visuals that were also included in my planning report that's attached to the agenda. There is an existing 2-story boathouse that is to be replaced with reduced sleeping cabin area and reduced covered area. There's also a portion of an existing overwidth dock that is proposed to be removed. There is a sports court that is proposed in the location of the former second sleeping cabin on the property, which has been removed. And limited tree removal and site alteration are required because we're reusing that existing footprint. Excuse me. Next slide. The previous owner of the property more than 20 years ago had constructed some deck additions without the benefit of a building permit. There is a building permit that has been issued for a new cottage, single story, maintaining the existing height, and a new deck to replace the former deck. The green shaded area is the permitted and approved deck, and the orange shaded area is the deck that was constructed back in 2004 that's now proposed to be reconstructed. Next slide, please. This is a view of the deck that will be replaced. Next slide, please. Here's another view of the existing cottage and boathouse with deck. Next slide. And a wider view of the property as well as the neighboring properties with weather that we could only hope to have soon. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Is there anyone who wishes to support? Opposition? Questions for the members? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I'm just looking for the real reasoning for the sports court having the kind of variance that we're talking about. I remember passing this bylaw, and 200 feet was what we wanted from it. So I don't understand. I mean, this lot just isn't deep enough for a sports court as far as I can see. So help me out here, Ms. Walker.
Thank you, and through you. I agree the variance for the sport court is fairly significant in this case, and staff did take a very close look at it. The things that we considered in our review was because of where the configuration of the lot, it would be very difficult to locate a sports court even close to 200 feet back from the water. And any location on this property that is close to a 200-foot setback has some fairly steep slopes and quite a bit of forested tree cover and would involve a significant amount of site alteration and tree removal. We also considered that the location of the sports court that's being proposed will be in the same location as a building that was just recently demolished. So that will very much minimize the site alteration and tree removal that will be required. It's also a smaller size sport court than a typical tennis court would be. It's going to be 1,800 square feet, including the surrounding area. To make sure that there was no concerns regarding stormwater management or visual impact from the lake, we have recommended that a stormwater management brief be completed to ensure that there's no runoff concerns from the sports court. The agent has informed me there will be no exterior lighting, so we don't have concerns with light pollution, and that will be included as a provision in the site plan agreement to make sure that is finalized. If any exterior lighting was to be proposed, we would ensure it was all dark sky compliant through the site plan agreement that we've recommended. We've also recommended that additional tree plantings take place between the boathouse and where the sports court's going to be located. From my photos obviously were taken in several feet of snow, so it doesn't give a very good context of the property. Mr. Allen's photos give a better visual representation of this property. Is pretty unique. There is quite a bit of development along the shoreline, but staff felt additional plantings, even to the rear of the boathouse, would just make sure that any development past that existing boathouse or the proposed boathouse and the dwelling that's being redeveloped will help buffer any development behind that, including the sports court. So that was kind of the reasoning of staff for our decision on this one, or recommendation on this one, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Okay, thank you, Ms. Walker, but we haven't talked at all about the noise, because pickleball noise is really tough, and it could go down to the water in this case, I figure. So I understand what you're saying, but I can't support the sports court, so you know that.
Anyone else like to have any comments or questions? Yes.
I'm going to support Member Bridgman on this, because I know that a lot of extra effort and work went into the bylaw, so I agree with her.
Okay. Mr. Member Stokes, did you have any to say?
Not specifically. I am in agreement with Member Bridgman, however.
Okay. We'll read the resolution.
If we don't like the sports court, does that get taken out of this, or do we have to turn the whole thing down? Just from a procedural standpoint, I don't want.
That's why I'm looking at the resolution just to see. Yes, Mr. Allen. Sorry, I can't see for the sunlight.
Oh, that's quite okay. Maybe I could help provide a little bit of insight into the sports court bylaw that was passed. I was working at the township at the time and was the one that authored that bylaw. From my perspective, the intention of that bylaw, one, was to increase the setback of a sports court, which previously was permitted as close as 66 feet, which is the minimum setback of any building or structure, and specifically to allow the committee on a case-by-case basis to consider the appropriateness for a court with a reduced setback of less than 200 feet. In some cases, lots are very steep or they're very treed, and a sports court can have a significant visual impact and require significant site alteration. In this case, the proposed sports court is located on level ground. It's located behind the existing boathouse and cottage. It will not be visible from the lake. Steps will be taken to provide and enhance the vegetation on the property. Stormwater management will be completed as part of a condition through the site plan agreement process. So in my professional opinion, I think it's appropriate to allow the sports court at a reduced setback because the impacts associated with it are quite minimal. Thank you.
Okay. Now,
there's a precedent that would be set here too with this kind of thing, but I go back to the noise, so I'm not going to support this. So
okay.
my other question, so you're going to read this and then we're going to play with it?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
that's right, so that we can doctor it up. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 2825 Richards to restruct a two-story boathouse, construct a sun deck addition, and construct a sports court is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. One, to permit a minimum front yard setback for a sun deck to be 5.5 feet. This is the one everyone's interested in. Two, to permit a minimum setback from a high water mark for a sports court to be 105 feet. And three, to permit a sleeping cabin on the second story of a boathouse to be 1,385 square feet. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following conditions. One, that a satisfactory stormwater management brief be prepared by a qualified professional and implemented to the satisfaction of the township. Two, that the subject lands be required to obtain site plan approval and that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title along with securities for matters including but not limited to stormwater management, dark sky lighting, addressing the development of a two-story boathouse within the floodplain and access and the retention of the existing vegetation and additional plantings. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of a decision. Now we will open to questions or comments.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I can't support the sports courts, so I would like that taken out of the motion.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. And
I would agree, and the concept of setting a precedent is I'm not comfortable with that also.
okay. So it looks like, yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps we can ask the planner to clarify. There are a number of conditions with this approval, and I think some of the conditions are directly related to the sports court. So if the planner could perhaps provide some clarity as to whether or not those conditions are required if committee is choosing to remove the sport court approval.
Okay, Mr. Allen?
No, yes, Kate.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I
that's okay,
thought,
through
like,
you.
he was gonna say he could take them out. That was what I was gonna say. Go ahead.
I don't believe if we are not approving, if committee's not supportive of the sports court, we don't need the first condition that a stormwater management brief be entered into because that was directly related to the sports court approval. I would still recommend that a site plan agreement be entered into to address access to the two-story boathouse within the floodplain.
We get all that?
Okay, everyone. So I have an amendment motion here. Be it resolved that the resolution be amended by removing the following. A, and construct a sports court. B, condition number 1. C, a stormwater management dark sky lighting from condition number 2. And further that the following variance be denied. 1, to permit a minimum setback from the high water mark for a sport court to be 105 feet.
Okay. Member Bridgman, seconder. Member Grogan Green. All in favor? That's carried. No. Now we approve the main motion as amended. All in favor? That's carried. I don't believe there's any other business. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that the committee of adjustment hearing adjourned at 10:04 a.m. and the next regular committee of adjustment hearing will be held Monday, March the 9th, 2026 at 9 a.m. All in favor? That's carried.